Lali-Ho Free Enterprise Community. Thanks for joining us this afternoon for Lali-Ho League Swiss Race. We're in week 3 here, and we have an exciting race today between DShmoo and Wewbear. I'm iClipper, and I'm joined today on comms by Nth. We have Zach on tracking, clicking all the buttons for us, and Scala Kidding doing our restream, the one who actually makes all of this happen. Nth, how are you doing this afternoon?
Doing pretty good. Very excited for this race today between our two runners, both of whom are 1-1 so far in the tournament. So a little bit less high stakes than some of the other runs that we have this week, but equally important because how this match goes for them is really going to set the tone for the rest of their Swiss round.
Definitely, I'm sure they're both hungry to get that second win on the board, and will make them feel a little more comfortable going to those future weeks. A little riskier being down to 1 and 2, but definitely won't be the end for either of them, whatever happens in this one.
Yeah, and looking at their schedule, they've had not necessarily the easiest matchups in cases where they have lost, so it should still be a pretty evenly matched run between two very, very skilled racers, especially with Sid start, which should be pretty good for them in terms of, if they run into a scary early Wyvern or like that, getting their agility in the spot where they need it.
Yeah, definitely that good agility through pretty much the entirety of the seed, and that really high HP start can be helpful for some of those meaner bosses, and he can equip a decent set of weapons, definitely not as flexible as a cane, but all those axes and his different hammers means there's a good chance you might find something strong for him there early on.
Yeah, especially in this flag set where we have that dwarf kit at the start, they're going to be guaranteed to have that dwarf axe to go on right at the beginning, which is better than most characters are going to start with in this flag set, where we also have that Sineki flag on, meaning that they're not going to start with their usual lunar rods and edges swords and like that.
Yeah, Sid won't be missing his prisoner robe too much there, so he'll be actually probably better off on this flag set than he is most of the time.
Now, I have noticed our two objectives today are very, very moon-themed.
Definitely there. We have one of our moon bosses, Pale Dim. Not one of the ruder ones for sure. He's not easy, maybe sometimes a little slow, but usually not the scariest of them, so that won't be too bad. But the other one, that's one that's probably making our racers happy to know that there's a Busoya waiting somewhere out there in the seed. Busoya being back from vacation for this league.
Yeah, and I feel like, every time I've seen a Fusoya in this tournament, the racers have taken him and Cecil being the sort of two kind of agreed upon best characters available. So knowing that one of those is there, and especially knowing that it could be, you've got a good narrowing down of those possible spots where it could be as well.
And it looks like we just started off here, so we'll see who'll be joining our Sid here and what our starting item is. All right, and that's Porum. Oh boy, and that magma key. So whatever our racers were thinking to do at the start of this run has just gone out the window, as now they have the entire underground also open to them. So I know that always makes me a little frantic when I see that magma key start.
It's a good question of what you do now at that point with the magma key start. Do you just immediately go underground, check what the Feymarch spots are, check what the chest is down there, run down Sylph Cave, get Sheila 1 prepped for when you go back up and check for Bool, or do you just continue along your way and wait until you hit that moment where you say, okay, I'm going to go underground now?
And yet, just a whole set of options open. I'll be interested to see if our runners diverge here, which it looks like they are. DShmoo heading to turn in that magma key, while Wewbear is doing some looting, going into the watery pass here, which, because this is a pretty out-of-the-way location, ends up getting a very high tier quality of loot.
And I'll be interested in seeing if he goes back after leaving the waterfall cave and runs over to Kaipo, because I know in a few races
All right, looks like we had a little hiccup there, but I think we're back live now. Looks like DShmoo has entered the underground and getting some looting done here. I missed Job Dwarf, unfortunately. Maybe someone saw that and can fill us in, as that's one of the most important checks here in this race.
But also an important check here in this race on DShmoo's side down in Tomra, he has already found those Sirens in the shop too.
Yeah, definitely knowing where those are, even if you don't get them immediately, although it looks like DShmoo is picking a few up. So when you want to do your grind, you can do so quickly. And I think Wewbear saw this character, but Valis there waiting on Ordeals, and maybe didn't want all that interest in the character, or maybe doesn't want to deal with Valis at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't quite catch who the character was due to the slight glitch we had there. You know, one of the problems and fun of live broadcasting is occasionally just have problems like that, but everything seems to be fixed now, and we're happy to bring the rest of this race to you.
So, DShmoo showing one of the reasons maybe you turn in that magma key early is it gets you access here to the March Cave, which has also very high quality loot and only one trap chest, so you just save outside, start looting everything until you find out what that trap chest is, reset because you're not taking that fight right now, and then go back and loot everything else.
And apparently it was Rosa on Mount Hobbs, so I expect that will be a pretty much guaranteed pickup for anyone who goes there as soon as they're able to get that Valvalis down, because, you know, Rosa, best white mage in the game. Maybe not as important in a seed where you know there's a Fusoya, but it might still be worth picking up.
Yeah, maybe less of a rush given you already have a white mage on your team, but yeah, Rosa just is the best white mage, so if you do have access to her, it's nice to be able to pick her up. It's like Magus sisters are hiding out in the Antline Cave, which should not be a hard fight there. Sid being able to hit for 1,400 points of damage. Boy,
Pan and the Fey March.
That's always what you like to see before you visit the Sylph Cave there for the first time. If you can get lucky and pick up that Pan, it's now going to be really high value to go through that check.
I actually think that's about the widest start that I can think of for a seed. If you're just going down those freebies, start with the Magma Key, grab the Pan and the Fey March, and then you have all of those checks right available to you from the start.
Antline Cave just wearing a Stardust Rod, which, while an excellent piece of equipment, isn't going to be any progression there. That isn't a key item. And unfortunately, we don't have anyone who could put it on yet, because if we did, that also does a pretty good set of damage for the early game bosses.
Yeah, but it is good to have two, knowing that Fusoya is in the seed, because you have a guaranteed Fusoya somewhere if you can find them.
Yeah, that Stardust Rod will really help compensate for his somewhat lower magic stats. And so is Octomam and Kanizo at the Land of Summon Monsters bosses. A little trickier bosses, not the easiest ones. Octomam's quite fast and will be hitting you pretty hard there. And there's enough HP that Wave is scary inside that Azure spot. So if you're not able to maybe knock down those waves or get a lot of levels for the HP, it's a little trickier of a spot to get through.
Yeah, that's definitely not the best prize in terms of bosses you can see down at the bottom of Feymarched, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see those bosses even really necessarily attempt until they're absolutely required.
Where there is now feeling confident enough, maybe a few extra items were picked up in Antline Cave, but can take on this Vivalis now and get his Rosa. DShmoo, following up on that Pan, makes total sense once you have that and you're already in the underground.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, you might as well get that done too, because you still have that Fabul check that he hasn't done, so he'll be able to get all three of those checks in a row when he goes back above ground.
The highly sought after single visit to Fabul is always nice to be able to hit. Ooh, and even the first key item reward here from Pan is Adamant, so a nice one. That's half our objective number 2. So we just need to find the Legend Sword to go with that, and that will complete off one of our objectives.
At this point in time, you just need like Hook and Pinktail on Shield 1 and 2, Legend Sword at Fabul Gauntlet guarded by Pale Dim, and then Fusoya on the Hook route, and we already got all 4 objectives that we need.
Oh,
that would be great.
The fastest seed ever. Just need to then actually find a way to get to Z, and you're good to go. DShmoo doing, looks probably his last check here in the underground, which is swinging by Dwarf Castle, probably just to check the shops here, as he probably isn't feeling confident enough to take on the bosses, but he might peek them. But is finding the hourglasses, which are a very nice item.
Yeah, I have to expect he'll probably go back above ground and at least try and get another character or two in his party before he tries those bosses as well, because, I mean, he knows he has the Sirens for a grind later on, but you still want to try and get some of that early experience onto your characters you're going to use to get through the first parts of the seed.
Yeah. Wewbear now heading in underground. Maybe he's thinking, well, I'll do Antline. Maybe that's where the pan is, and it'll make this underground check more valuable. Likely his routing will be the same as DShmoo and get to pick up that pan in the Baymarch before heading into the Sylph Cave.
Yeah, I kind of expect our runners will just sort of trade places a little bit. I have to expect that DShmoo will want to do the Gauntlet early on, but probably we'll check the Hobbs character at some point too, and maybe even do Antline while he's right there.
Excellent. And good news, we got back to the job Dwarf, and I believe is a mechanical operator, is what I saw, as well as Wewbear talked to the other Dwarf. I'm not too sure what that one does, but we did get our check, so seed validated.
The other Dwarf is just in there just doing his best, and I'm proud of him for it.
I'm glad Wewbear talked to him. It feels like he doesn't, get the same amount of chances to get known, and so it's good he gets some recognition this time around.
Yeah, I mean, I try and talk to him every time I'm there, but really, in the end, that's more because I forget which one the job Dwarf is and talk to the wrong one.
Well, they're also walking around, swapping places. It can be hard to keep track.
Watching the inventory screens come up, you can't tell which one is job Dwarf anymore because they're running back and forth across each other. Sort of Dwarf shell game in Tomra at time to time. It looks like DShmoo is now going to head into that Valvalis fight for the Rosa.
Definitely feels like probably his looting he's done has given him enough power to take on this fight immediately, so we'll do so at the first try. Wewbear did skip his looting inside of the Baymarch Cave, but we'll go ahead and course grab that pan, so that is excellent. We'll likely send him directly to the Sylph Cave as well.
Yep, and then I have to expect he'll head straight back above ground after maybe checking the Dwarf Castle item shop as well, and then it'll be Fabul time.
Also going to peek these bosses and then almost certainly not take them, because that is terrifying for this party. Yep.
If either of our runners had taken one of those fights and beaten them, I would have been so impressed. I mean, I don't think it would ever happen, but...
Yeah, that requires some really specialized technique to get through these levels, and especially without... I haven't seen a curse ring from either of these, so no ability to just agility anchor to get past the spot. So you'd be for those bosses to be so much faster than a party at this level, you would have an incredibly hard time getting any action in before you're wiped.
Yeah, I mean, if you're lucky, you might be able to get something done there. It looks like Wewbear might actually even be going to pop an early Siren or two.
That's nice. I like it. If you can get those levels, so you're able to actually kill the kill the egg before it hatches, that's a lot of experience. Will make all of the boss fights in the overworld that much faster and easier. And I think Bear's notices, well, I have Artemis arrows, and those go ahead and exploit the dragon weakness, so I probably can take one of these eggs on.
I also like that play too, because where we know that those Sirens are in Tomra, that was not even close. Yeah, where we know those Sirens are in Tomra, it's not a long walk to go get more Sirens if you need more later too, so it's probably going to turn out ahead for him.
Yep, definitely. So yeah, that's a really nice chunk. Oh, even taking a second one on here. So yeah, all of these levels will make all the boss fights in the overworld not really a concern and potentially a lot faster, so the time being spent doing some grinds here will hopefully be caught up on the boss fights.
Yeah, and PK and chat also pointing out that this grind should get Porum to exit as well, which will be very, very good when they start doing the more actual long dungeon checks that you can actually exit out of.
Excellent.
All right, this Sheila check is going to determine how quick this seed goes, I feel.
Well, the first one's not a great hit. But Sheila 2, that's much more interesting.
We're just giving all the objectives away in this scene.
Yeah, so Sheila 2 there giving us Twin Harp, which is objective number 1 there, complete Cave Magnus. You have to go through that single boss fight, which is not too hard of a boss fight, maybe a little tricky for our current levels, but still not overall too hard. Finish an objective and lets us hear some nice music.
And a nice easy boss to take down here at the start of Fabul as well.
Yep. Bahamut will cast Mega Nuke after the countdown, so your choices are to either try to race him down to the count, if you can do enough damage before that'll come out, or if you want those starter kit star veils to just reflect that Mega Nuke back.
It does look like he's going for the reflected, drop that star veil onto Rosa, so really just waiting for this count to go off at this point.
There we go, and it looks like our racers now overlapping. Wewbear making his way back to Fabul as well. So, although Wewbear has done the antline check, which I don't believe DShmoo619 gone and done yet. Although we know that's only the Stardust Rod, so not the biggest find.
Yeah, really the only big advantage there being that I expect DShmoo will eventually go back and do Antlion at some point in time, because it's just basically go down, pop it on the head, and it'll probably be fine. And the Legend Sword from King Fabul.
It wasn't Sheila holding it, but Fabul has value. A lot of value today.
I was joking when I said all these things. I didn't think they'd turn out to start being true here.
Yep, so we are eligible to go ahead and turn in that Adamant Legend Sword to forge into the X-Scow, completing Objective 2, and that Twin Harp to do Cave Magnus, which would get us Objective 1. So that's 2 out of, there are 5 objectives here, but you only have to finish 4 of the 5 to get your crystal and be able to then take on Xeromus. But, of course, some way to access Xeromus.
At the pace they're going, that's going to be the big block, is almost more, are you going to get a Darkness Crystal or a Pass before you complete the rest of the seed?
Especially if Pale Dim ends up showing up in one of these early spots, and or Lucia also at a quick boss spot. So, or sorry, quick character check. We could be in go mode very quickly and just be hunting for the moon axis.
I'll be interested in seeing what Wewbear does, having done that little bit of a level grind too, if he wants to skip some of the other overworld checks, maybe just go run do Baron and leave Mount Ordeals for now, and then head underground, maybe consider Dwarf Castle for those 2 boss checks, plus the character check once he sees what he gets out of Fabul.
Yeah, definitely I can see that being a good play. Ordeals is 3 boss checks, which can be useful when you have your boss hunt like Pale Dim, but it also does take quite a bit of time, and if you don't say already have your Cecil or your Tella, you're doing 3 bosses for 1 key item, and maybe not worth that time sink.
And I almost feel like in a siege like this, which is so very generous at the start, you're kind of probably feeling like, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to get many more characters before I'm in go mode.
Mm-hmm. I imagine it's feeling very jetty, and both runners here are probably imagining, well, with that early magma key, my opponent's probably also found this pan already and has now done Fabul, so there are also 2 objectives in go mode.
This Rydia behind Rubicant at Baronin is interesting to me because it's going to be another interesting early pickup. I know they both found Sylph down in the Fey March in one of those chests, so they wanted to pick her up, drop her into the party, put Sylph on her. She can do a little bit of work early on.
Yep, definitely. I said we were going through his inventory there. I wonder if that was just a confirmation of, did I pick up a Sylph, and saw it there? So it's like, okay, maybe I'll be interested in getting some levels on this Rydia. The dolls here, though, you'd like some source of AoE, and unfortunately, though, I'm not sure they have any J items to get them at something like Stardust or a Guide Drum to take out all the dolls at once, so they'll have to be careful here to not summon the big doll, or just Berserk and hope they attack everything fast enough that this works out.
Yeah, I mean, I almost wonder at this point in time if you just sort of take the loss there, and if it transforms, and your Berserk will probably knock the big doll down pretty quickly.
That's true. Wewbear did do that grinding, so as you can see, his party's actually quite strong already. So if the big doll did show up, it's probably not too concerning for him.
Yeah, it did get unlucky with those first 2 attack targets, left that 1 doll up, and it does transform.
Yep. Yeah, just, mid-hundreds points of damage on each of these attacks, though. So yeah, he'll still make it through this form relatively quickly. And there it goes. And we're rewarded with at the Baron Inn with the pigtail. Yeah, this is looking to be a very jetty seed country. Every ward just getting us that much closer to go mode.
I am shocked by how very kind the seed has been so far, but I haven't seen like a true jet seed in this tournament yet, and this turning into one is actually pretty exciting to me.
Exactly. Or who knows, maybe this was the end of being generous, and now we're just going to have an extremely long chain to get us that hook. The hook is holding both Fusoya and Pale Dim at the top of Upper Valley. Who knows?
Yeah, I think the nightmare at this point is you get all of these key item objectives through, and then you run onto Pale Dim and Fusoya on the required giant.
Wewbear going ahead and doing a little bit of boss hunting, checking Miss Cave and finding the alt gauntlet. So I'm sure Wewbear is happy to know he won't be having to face the gauntlet anywhere he wants to finish, although a little sad for us viewers, as that could be a fun fight to see at many locations.
Yeah, gonna be especially happy to see it because still outside of early Rydia summons, which I think are all single target now I think about it, does not have any form of AoE on his party right now.
Although, I suppose the Stardust Rod on Rydia would get them a source of AoE, so depending on how early game boss spot that is, the Stardust Rod might do enough damage. But yeah, if you're looking at those later game boss spots, that's not enough AoE damage.
That is a very good point. Prior to this tournament, I'd never seen people using those Stardust Rod as an item procs in a tournament, but I've seen a lot of good use out of them this Swiss round so far.
Yep, that T-Wildish flag, making it possible to hit the Stardust Rod somewhat early, means you can take out some early boss spots with that damage before you start getting some of those higher level spells to do thousands points of damage. It still will get you a few hundred, and AoE means a handful of bosses can make it a lot easier with it. PK also noting AoE from Blizzard Spear is another option. So there are a few different items that it's nice to be aware of, can cast you some AoE spells, especially for very early boss locations on Alt Gauntlet. You don't need high AoE damage. Even Thor Rages sometimes are enough to get you through that.
And we are coming up here on the Cave Magnus check, which is always a fan favorite.
Definitely.
So for those who aren't familiar, one of the things that we like to randomize in this particular randomizer is the harp song that plays during this Cave Magnus check when Edward is playing his harp to weaken the Dark Elf. So if you haven't been around, haven't watched one of these races before, first of all, welcome, and second of all, hope you enjoy the wonderful tunes of DJ Spoony B today.
Looks like we're coming right up on that, so I think we'll just be quiet for a little bit here and let everyone enjoy the nice music we're about to get. And we have Wewbear getting through that fight, but unfortunately not able to capture a Mom Bomb for his party.
Yeah, it did use self-destruct, was not very effective. Does get the rat tail for his efforts there. Also, my fingers hurt from thinking about how that must actually be to play on the heart. So, great talent there.
Definitely. DShmoo, on the other hand, has decided to go up Mount Ordeals, getting through Dark Knight Cecil and Odin spot here. So 2 of the 3 bosses done. Unfortunately not finding the Pale Dim, but still 1 more boss check here. So
yeah, and I have to wonder if Wewbear is going to go back for that check at any point in time. But another interesting contrast I've noticed is that DShmoo has kept that Rydia alive, using her for damage. On Wewbear's side, he's just decided, drop her to the floor. I'm just going to use her as an anchor at this point.
Especially without having found a curse ring, keeping her as an anchor can be good because you can't just easily make any character your anchor. Ooh, only a life staff apparently on Ordeals there for DShmoo. So, and not a Pale Dim. So right now not looking like the best return on the investment here for checking the spot, but a way to know that ahead of time. So it's still a good check.
Rather fittingly, given the vanilla enemies there, it does appear that Mount Ordeals is haunted at this point in time.
So, potential for Paladin's Cecil to be hiding somewhere in this seed, and since we can already forge, means he would be wielding an Excalibur, so this might still end up paying off for DShmoo, and Wewbear might end up checking it out anyway, as noted for the 3 bosses on the way to that key item.
Definitely, and also, you know, if you wanted to invest and you did find that Cecil, you could dump the money on a Zeus Gauntlet that's for sale in that Kokol shop.
A very big strength boost, so he'll hit extra hard with that strong weapon. Get some additional attack multipliers there. But the life staff is good for Rosa when you are ready to turn her away from being an archer into a white mage and wanting to get really good healing numbers on your Cure 3 and Cure 4 casts.
Yeah, and if the seed still continues being Jetty too, and you don't really get good characters, you could also keep that Rosa as an archer and put that life staff on the forum and use her as your white mage and just try and run attack Rosa for a while.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to have that backup white mage so you can just keep Rosa in archer mode, especially if you get, you know, better archer gear, that Artemis bow, that heroine robe. She can definitely do a lot of damage that way.
Yep, we do see a sparkle behind the throne here at Dwarf Castle, so it's going to be exciting to see what that is, because I believe we still have all 5 still on the table at this point.
Yep, and definitely exciting here, as there's many interesting bosses there, but we are on that hunt for Pale Dim, so it could be very scary or it could be very rewarding. We'll have to see.
I think this is fine.
This probably be it's a little tricky. So because he's using Rydia as his anchor here, and the spot is normally actually kind of slow, but because Rydia is also kind of slow, the boss now is sort of about as fast as your party, and so you might be eating a lot of those big waves before you can start getting cures done, and it might end up being actually a little tricky to get through.
Yeah, I feel like if he wanted to, I think he berserked the Rosa though, but if you wanted to, you could probably grind through it slowly with just Sid attacking and just keeping people alive with your 2 white mages, but you know, in this case, I think he's sort of stabilizing now.
Yep. Only having to deal with the 1 big wave there, not the double, so only 25% damage as opposed to 50%, and able to get off another cure 2. It also does help having the 2 characters berserked here, as because you're about equally fast as the boss, just making sure all those fight commands get in as fast as possible will help you kind of clog up that queue and not have to eat as many boss attacks.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, it's looking like it has stabilized. And gets through.
I do like this little efficiency move from DShmoo here, going and making sure he has that hovercraft raised up at this point, and then looking like he's going to go back and check Kaipo quickly.
That's nice. Potentially finding out if this is where the Fusoya is. Because it's not in Dwarf Castle, that is instead the Cecil we are maybe looking for. Wewbear unfortunately hasn't done Mount Ordeals, so this is just Dark Knight for now.
Yeah, I think at this point, if you find the Sand Ruby, obviously you're headed there right immediately. But if you find the Sand Ruby particularly late, there's the question, do you even go for that Cecil? Or go for that Tella, rather, actually. I see what's going on here. I was focused too much on the other side and didn't even notice the Cecil walking in on Wewbear's side.
Exactly. So again, another fight that is made much faster with access to AoE, which Wewbear, unfortunately, keeping Rydia down, doesn't have, but still not a risky fight, just a little slower when you have to take out all those zombies one by one. And DShmoo forging his X-Scowl, although it doesn't have the Cecil yet, but Dwarf Castle's likely a high candidate location for him to check, so might get well rewarded here.
Yeah, I mean, you'll have to see a Cecil early on, and I feel like that's going to mean that Wewbear will go up Ordeals very soon. The question to me at this point is, where you know that Tella is there, if you get the Sand Ruby, do you go back for him with the party that you have right now?
Definitely, I think very much that's how early do you get that Sand Ruby. So after a few more character checks, your party's probably a little more filled out, and maybe you don't need it, or maybe you just purposely leave him in the bed for right as you're getting ready to do Xeromus, and you don't have an anchor situation set up. Grab Tella.
Yeah, and that could play out in DShmoo's favor, where he has not been anchoring with that Rydia Wewbear has, so he'll have the levels on that Rydia, already have a character somewhat bulked up already, whereas Wewbear would have to try and go from there. Probably wouldn't end up going for it.
And Dwarf Castle does rulers with the Darkness Crystal, so the rest of the map has now opened up to Wewbear. He is able to go to the moon, which has a character check, as well as many pretty challenging bosses who are guarding some key item checks.
Yeah, and that's going to route out really, really well for him with that Ordeals check that he'll want to do for the Cecil, and then just it's a straight shot right over to Mysidia, go up and check that moon character.
Just the possibility of being our food, which I'm sure the runners would love to see.
And if it is the food, that does make this race a quite interesting moment, because then it becomes a race to find either Pale Dim or the Hook.
Yeah, that can definitely pose some interesting questions. Do you, on the moon, go ahead and just base check every boss and reset if it's not Pale Dim, or try to push your way through those bosses to get the key item, hoping it's the Hook?
I think it's a little bit of a question of whether or not you grind first too, because I don't think that either runner will necessarily go and face check if they don't think they can take a moon boss or two, because you might as well take the efficiency of being able to do both.
Yeah, definitely, and knowing where those sirens are means you can go ahead and do your grind fights, either cracking open some eggs here, or maybe some potential moon grinds. You have the warlocks available, you can mute them through either your white mages. We also have access to hourglasses, so you can hourglass the warlocks or even the gold dragons.
Yeah, I have to think at this point, both runners are feeling pretty good about the situation they've landed in. They're going to have Excalibur Cecil, they're going to have their moon access all sorted out, and it's really just this find one thing situation 35 minutes in, so both of them got to be feeling both a bit confident and a bit worried about, okay, where am I relative to the other runner right now?
Yeah, DShmoo is heading on over to Dwarf Castle, so we'll get that Cecil, who will already be a paladin for him, while Wewbear looking to go ahead and get that paladin.
Actually, thinking about it, I wonder too if either runner will try and gamble on some other lower percentage play, thinking that the other one might not go for it. I wouldn't necessarily mind seeing a keyless tower attempt somewhere here too.
Yeah, that could be good. That seems maybe more likely for DShmoo, just already underground. Maybe do that before committing to going up to the moon with the darkness crystal. Or Wewbear, as you're noting, kind of already close there to Mysidia, might swing that way first and go ahead and do that character check. With other than keyless tower and going to the moon, what else do our runners have open to them?
They could walk to the bottom of Feymarch and do that wonderful Octomammoth Leviathan spot, or the Kenatso at Asura spot that I feel neither of them are going to go for in any way, shape, or form, because it's pretty much guaranteed at this point they're not hard required.
Yep, those agreed. It seemed like some harder fights, if you can avoid, might be nice to do so. But as you were also saying, maybe they want to try to do those lower probability checks, hoping that their opponent isn't doing them, because while not hard required, there is a chance they're holding the hook.
And if the hook has Fusoya, or if both Pale Dim and Fusoya are behind Earth Crystal, it could still be required.
It could actually be. So Wewbear finding out, just a life staff here, but again, doesn't mind, has a paladin, so that's a good reward all in itself. PK noting, it could be a hard required giant. That is possible. Fu hiding at the end of giant, and Pale Dim also up there, as you need 4 out of the 5 objectives. If 2 are in one location, you have to go to that location.
Wouldn't that just be the biggest troll this seed could have done? Throw everything at you right at the start, and then you have to go up the giant anyways.
Yeah, the fake out jet seed. Wewbear immediately there, equipping everything he can onto his paladin, making that Excalibur hit as much as possible. Didn't shell out all that money for Zeus Gauntlet yet, but maybe we'll go back and pay for that.
Yeah, although you have to wonder if they might be saving their money for some of the other things there. Like if you find Hourglass 2s, it could make your grind on the moon if you're doing that a lot easier, stuff like that as well, instead of investing in those Zeus Gauntlets, because at any point in time, our runners could just hit go mode.
Yep, that's true, and we do know where those Hourglass 2s are. They were seen in Dwarf Castle, so we know where both that and the Sirens are. So that is a good source of your money. Just put it into your grinding to just get those levels, and use those to get strong enough to take on both the moon bosses and Xeromus himself. Wewbear going ahead and launching the Lunar Whale here, so it is time to go to the moon likely, get that character check, know who's up there, and then maybe the character will determine if he wants to go ahead and start taking on some of those bosses, or which grind he's feeling comfortable to do.
Feel if the character is anything other than Fusoya, it probably won't change his plans at this point in time. But if it is a Fusoya, then you're thinking, oh, I really just need to find this one thing.
Yep. Usuya can also be helpful for maybe choosing which grind to do. Gold Dragons, if you have someone who casts weak, are much faster to do. And there's a good amount of bosses beat up now, so Usuya will have a pretty full, if not complete, spell list. So good chance to have that weak on him.
Yeah, and honestly, Fu makes a lot of those moon bosses a lot less scary to do if you get them here too, because you can just blast them down with, if you hopefully have nuke or even white, you can just get through them anyways.
And we'll find out if this is where Fu is in his vanilla spot, or reward it with someone maybe less exciting for our runners. Maybe duplicates or someone else they really just don't need on the party at this time. I believe that's our other twin there. We're getting a Palom.
I don't think that either runner's gonna necessarily keep the Palom. Well, oh no, apparently I'm wrong.
Could be Wewbear's thinking, AoE damage is useful in a lot of situations, and I don't have any yet. Yeah, let's go ahead and pick up this Palom, and we'll teach him Quake relatively quickly.
He's gonna check this moon shop, probably looking for Bacchus wines at this point, which I feel just have always been in this moon shop in every seed I've seen. Not today, though.
Nope, unfortunately, no Bacchus wines, although looks like he does have 2 white mages cast Berserk, and is going a heavier mage party anyway with that Palom pickup, so. But, yeah, as that wasn't Fu, not feeling too confident taking on the bosses, so it's time to head back to the blue planet.
The question to me is, where does he go from here? Does he go and do an egg grind, or does he go and try and sneak something else out here? Because Keyless Tower is about the only really good play left that he would be confident in over the moon bosses.
I wouldn't be surprised to see some egg grind here. Palom learning Quake is great, and I think his Paladin is still only level 1, so getting some levels on him would also be very useful. Man, it looks like it is time to crack some more eggs. And landed also very close to the towers. That Keyless Tower is another good second check to do. Good damage there coming out from Rosa. Must still have some Artemis arrows. The good news is even if you only have 1, that's enough to keep cracking eggs. If you kill the enemy with your last arrow, your arrow doesn't actually get consumed, so you can just keep shooting that one.
Meanwhile, DShmoo has been struggling a bit with this dwarf castle, and is now on this Mylon and Friends fight. Had some trouble with the Ogopogo to begin with, and I have to imagine you won't have too much of a trouble at this point, but that has to sting a little bit, losing that time there.
Yeah, definitely. Does, because he's keeping Riddy up, have access to AoE spells. This Leviathan should knock out all the ghasts, and then just has to get through Mylon. In fact, Mylon might even get knocked down by this. So while that first fight was a lot slower, I can make up a little bit of time on this second fight.
It's one of those Riddy drawbacks, is a lot of those more difficult bosses have hard-coded counters to summons, like that Ogopogo did, so she just sort of loses a bit of that early effectiveness you can get if you get that early Leviathan.
Wewbear cracking quite a few eggs here, actually. It looks like getting a decent number of levels. I guess wasn't feeling too close to 10 key items, so it's not like, well, try to break that threshold before doing a lot of the grinding. We'll just do it here. We're already in the underground. We can gain a lot of levels and just make whatever boss fights we want to do next, maybe even possible, because the boss fights just probably were not possible with the current levels, or maybe make things like the Keyless Tower a lot faster.
Yeah, and if he's going all the way with this grind, that says a lot about his confidence and where the seed is going to go from here, because that's basically saying, okay, I'm not getting 2 more key items at any point in time soon here. So in some ways, I kind of feel that this grind is indicating that he is just going to go right back up to the moon after this and not going to go check that Helix tower.
Yep. Yeah, especially with the length of this grind, very much seems like getting prepared for the moon. You need enough levels to go take on those much harder bosses. DShmoo, on the other hand, finding out that Darkness Crystal will be the reward for Dwarf Castle, and might go ahead and do their check of the
Did he just reset before getting the reward there?
And, yeah, without getting the reward. They actually were being still for a long time. I wonder if they had an unfortunate controller issue and weren't able to move and just had to eat the reset to get control back.
Deeply unfortunate. Unfortunately,
that would be a pretty significant time loss. Resetting again, I wonder if this is a thought of, well, I can't spend the time doing this again, so I'm going to... Oh, no, okay, wanted to just fix battle speed. Got to find out from DShmoo what happened with that at the end of the seed.
And I think now that he's sort of cracked this Ogopogo a little bit, probably not going to be too much longer for him. But it does look like Wewbear is going to go for this Octomam at Leviathan.
Yeah, definitely. Gaining all those levels also mean these spots are now actually looking possible to get done. So we'll be taking on Octomam and maybe the Kanizo as well. Blink is good here. Octomam only does attacking. Right now with everyone else at 1 HP, your Paladin will go ahead and try to take all the hits for them.
I like this. Very good application of game mechanics here. And once you get that health down just enough, that Octomam will be so slow it won't really matter whether or not he's going to be hitting a lot or not.
So Octomam has an interesting script here of getting a very high speed when all of its tentacles are up, but every time you land an attack or a magic spell, something that does damage, you'll start losing tentacles. So the first 3 will bring down 1 tentacle, and then next 2 hits, and 2 more hits, those each lower another tentacle, lowering the speed. So any way you can just get attacks out really fast means you get that speed under control, and eventually the boss becomes very slow and down to 1 or 2 tentacles, and you're really safe. So already knocking a few tentacles off here means this fight's probably stabilized for Wewbear, and he'll be able to make it through.
Very good play. Gonna get this, well, interesting that he elixired the Palom there. I'm assuming that might be an MP thing.
Very well could have been gained all those levels, but never bothered to use a tent or a cabin, so he was still at level 10 of MP, which is not much, and you would like to get this lit 3 cast off.
Which is potentially worrying, because if this Octomam decides to just slap Palom upside the head, then he's not going to be able to get through it.
Yeah, could have tried getting cover out from the Paladin to make sure Palom will never get hit, but hey, the cast got out and did... Oh, actually Frostbite is noting the Paladin is already covering Palom. So he will be safe here from any of these attacks. And this might have actually been exactly what Wewbear was looking for on his grind, is since he knew this boss was up here, enough levels means Lightning 3. Lightning 3 will do quad 9s at this spot. And though you do have 35,000 HP to eat through, when you're doing almost 10,000 damage a hit, no problem.
And whatever reward is from here, if it ends up being something good, if it ends up being that hook, this is pretty much a game changer. But it does end up being the Baron Key, which is still not a bad prize.
Yeah, definitely. That still gets you another character check, 2 unknown bosses as well as the known boss, and 2 potential key items. There's a lot in Baron, so I would not be surprised to see Wewbear want to follow this up quickly. I think the big question is this a heal to go take on the other boss down here before heading out? Which does look to be the case.
Well, if he's got that good rhythm going and can consistently get the lid off on Keinatsu, then this should be pretty easy for him.
Yep, so you use the lightning once the water has been gathered to try to cancel out the wave. If he's trying to get damage from his lightning, say through a lightning 3 cast, that timing is much trickier to pull off. So it'll be interesting to see what his strategy is here. Though he has gained those levels, so he might be able to just eat some of these full strength waves, and was working on knocking some HP off of Keinatsu here. Once you've dealt a few thousand points of damage, the waves become a lot less scary. It's linked to the boss's current HP levels, so if you can deal out damage quickly, the boss becomes not such a big deal.
Does look like he's going to get that one, yeah.
Yeah. Good. And seems to be pretty confident in his timing there, even queuing up that lightning 1 before the gathered water message. So quite familiar with this script, it looks like. Although Rydia is still standing, I wonder if he's going to be taking care of that before the fight ends.
Oh, the wave goes off anyways, but it's pretty fine.
Yep, not enough damage here. And again, if he just keeps dishing out the damage as he's doing, all the future waves will do even less. So once you're able to survive one of them, you're probably in good shape to be able to get through the fight.
Question to me is he gonna bother picking that Porum back up? Because if he's not gonna bother picking that Porum back up, that tells me that he's looking for a Porum replacement here pretty soon, but might just be waiting for this wave to go off first.
Yeah. It does look like he'll want to pick up Porum, so throwing out that life potion, and has gotten Keinatsu in the shell, so this fight's looking pretty safe and in the bag at this point. Excellent. And Wewbear does get through this while DShmoo is continuing. That Ogopogo's rude at pretty much every location, and he can be at quite hard fight here, as we're seeing.
Well, there's another Excalibur if you find another Cecil.
Yeah. It's always good to have that backup Excalibur. Maybe you also get an edge, and good weapon for him to dart out.
When you find that second Cecil, you drop that Porum, and suddenly you're back over to physical stats again.
Definitely. If only Edge could teach Cecil to dual wield. Alright, and Wewbear is definitely interested in following up on that Baron key. So, and yeah, makes a lot of sense. There's potential for some really good finds inside of Baron here. A lot of density and checks. And types of checks Wewbear is interested in.
You have to think that a lot of the bosses that could be particularly rude down at that Odin spot are off the table at this point, so probably pretty confident that he can get both those key items and all 3 of those bosses down.
Yep, and again, with the levels he got to get through the Fey March bosses, he's probably making him feel pretty confident being able to take on that basement throne spot as well. We actually haven't seen a lot of the really free bosses yet, so there's a chance there's some easy stuff both here and waiting on the move. DShmoo has made it through the Nope Rope and is on to the Mylon and Friends fight again.
Yep. This should pose no problem to him. He'll just cast Leviathan with that Rydia again and slap Mylon, and it'll be over.
So we have our first fight here, which was Karate Man. So we saw that. We knew it was not going to be our Paladin, but there are the 2 additional throne bosses, the main throne and the basement throne. So there's a chance of Paladin hanging out here in Baron. As well as D-Mist is still at large, which is an interesting boss to find as that unlocks another key item.
Yeah, and then what those key items are will also probably dictate quite a bit, because imagine you get an Earth Crystal from one of these checks, you're probably going to follow it up. It's 2 more character checks, 2 more boss checks, and then you're back in Baron again. You get the package, might as well go for that one too. You know, it could still be stuck on the overworld for quite a while.
Very well could be the case. Our first boss, though, is definitely one of probably the more annoying bosses to find here when you're quite overpowered for the spot, because Golbez is always going to just be a bit of a time sink. Especially rude to kind of find at this second boss location, because if he's kind of the first boss you run into, you likely have a save nearby, and you might just reset so you can go ahead and do picky your size on your party. Here, you just got through a boss, so you're going to try to just take on Golbez.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only benefit at this point in time is you're using that Rydia as your anchor. At least Shadow Dragon here is only going to have to devour 2 people before he goes away.
Yep, that definitely will help you. A little bit faster get through the fight. So DShmoo has gone through Door Castle and gets the Darkness Crystal. DShmoo might be feeling a bit behind here, so I'm wondering if DShmoo's thinking on doing some of those really kind of out of the way, low chance checks as a way to get back into the seed. As we were just talking about, Giant maybe is required, not that likely, but maybe just go Giant and hope that's where everything's hiding.
You know, I'd love to see racers kind of start doing that. You haven't seen the boss spot, haven't seen the character spot. I'm going to take the ultimate gamble and go for that Giant on the off chance that both of them are on there.
Yep. Yeah, if something's gone unfortunate for you early on in the seed, and you know you're likely behind, gambles can be good. It's the way to get back in there.
And, it could also end up too, if this Baron doesn't pay off, DShmoo goes to the moon and finds what's on the moon. This could tighten right up immediately.
Oh yeah, that's true. There's a chance this is just a entire wasted or haunted bear. There was a chance, but now it's looking very valuable to come to Baron, as that is our Fusoya. Lighting up another objective there for Wewbear, so 3 out of the 4 he needs to complete is done at this point, as well as a very strong addition to his party, dropping that for voice link.
Is, and we're about to see what the key item is, but we're also coming up here on round 2 of music. So
an encore, excellent.
Looks like we'll have time to quickly mention what this key item is before that happens. Maybe, maybe not. Well, I don't think we're going to get it, so I'm just going to be quiet. Go ahead and listen to this round number 2.
Yeah. If it's exciting, you can imagine we're very excited.
Well, this cruise through Barren Castle might not be as much of a cruise as Wewbear was hoping.
We were saying, well, with those levels and able to take out the kind of ruder bosses in the Fey March, probably nothing on the basement throne would be that troublesome for Wewbear. But Wyvern's pretty much scary at all locations you find him, and so gonna actually probably pose a little bit of a problem here. He did get the Star Veils off and was able to start casting Life, but with that kind of relatively high speed, the nukes were just coming up too fast to stabilize.
Yeah, and now that he knows it's there, I mean, he'll be able to get around it just fine, especially with that Rydia anchor.
Yeah, definitely knowing that this is the boss helps a lot on being able to take it out. Usually that surprise when you first find it is what makes it hard.
Looks like Shmoo's going to go for a bit of a grind, and I can't blame him at this point in time. Definitely, probably the better choice in this case. I'm still a bit worried if this Wyvern ends up being required, if he has to go for that, because he does not have an anchoring situation right now outside of throwing that Dwarf axe on the Sid and hoping for the best.
Oh, yeah. Definitely could be a fair bit trickier to get through without having that good anchor. And unfortunately, haven't found that sand. You just go and pick up that Tellet.
But I'm trying to think of where else this Pale Dim could be. Package, Earth Crystal, Giant Tower, still plenty of possibilities.
Could be Mega Sister, so you don't actually need the Earth Crystal to take on the first boss of Tower of Zod, so that could be a cheeky spot to go check.
Gotta go sneak that out and hope for the best, but at the same time, I kind of feel like if you're in Wewbear's side, at least you're not going for it. Luca Key, though, I would be tempted to go for.
Luca Key's also, at this point where you found a lot of the key items, doing the Luca Key check where you just save outside, go down, peek the key item, peek the boss, and if it's not going to continue a chain on your key item and isn't one of the bosses you're looking for, you just reset, and it's not quite that same time sinking. So I imagine what Wewbear there is trying to balance is, well, there's a lot of bosses and key items on the moon, though, and there's just one boss and one key item in the sealed cave. So, which direction to go?
I think we might end up seeing... Oh, he hasn't checked the waterfall cave yet.
Yep, definitely at this point. You've seen so many bosses, it starts kind of much more likely that these spots you haven't been to yet are where maybe that Pale Dim is hiding out. So let's go ahead and check that. Although it's not.
Well, it looks like he's going to chase down that Luca Key.
So they're making the save outside the cave. I imagine we'll see a save in a different save slot inside of the cave, and then just reset out if there's no chain to follow up on here. Though you do want to make sure you check both the key item and the boss before you take your reset.
Yeah, the other question that would be riding on my mind at this point on whether or not the sealed cave or the moon is the right play is, if you find that Pale Dim on the walk down the moon, you're already where you need to be to finish the seed, given that we don't have a pass yet.
Oh, really good call out. Yeah, definitely being able to route around, not having to do the walk twice down the entire lunar subterranean can really shave minutes off of the run.
Well, it does look like we're about to have Fey March round 2, so DShmoo will end up getting that Baron Key, which I imagine means that he'll get his Fusoya, so gonna be happy with that when he gets there, because probably use that Fusoya, drop, I would say, maybe the Porum out of his party at this point.
Yeah, when you have Rosa, the second White Mage is a little less necessary, so probably a good drop, and Rydia is doing good damage there with getting the levels and knowing the Leviathan summon. Alright, and so is Sealed Cave interesting? Well, the key item will be giving us... the pass. That's nice to save time, but probably not interesting enough itself to keep. So really this will be who's the boss down here.
Yeah, although pass could be worth walking out in case you find a hook on the moon instead of pale dim.
Nope. Well, the fight is pretty free, so Wewbear could have gone through that quickly. Decide just take the reset, and we'll do the walk twice if we need to.
Hey, here's this keyless tower play for everyone else who's a fan of Anywhere But the Moon.
I imagine Wewbear's like, well, I'm already in the underground. Let's go ahead and finish off this last check I have open to me before heading off to the moon. Plus, one of the free fights just came off the table there, seeing the water hag down in the sealed cave, so maybe doesn't want to have to go take on some of the harder bosses he might find on the moon. Octoman still proving to be a bit of a trouble, looks like, for DShmoo. Even with those levels, still definitely not going to be a free fight. With all those tentacles up, is able to hit real fast and quite hard at that spot.
Well, on the other hand, if he goes to the moon here, finds Pale Dim and a hook up there, this could actually be really good because he never found that Baron key. Is not going to spend that time chasing the Luca key rabbit hole.
Yeah, definitely, because it's not required to get Fusoya here. Only need 4 of the 5 objectives. So if finding the hook to get that pigtail turned in and the Pale Dim could put DShmoo in go mode before Wewbear here. So that could be a way to catch DShmoo back up.
And really, that's what I love about these flag sets with the boss hunts and character hunts. Any moment, you could just have someone just completely come from a bit behind. Obviously, DShmoo had that unfortunate accidental reset out of Dwarf Castle, which cost him a good chunk of time, but definitely something you could catch right back up in a moment here.
Yep, definitely. And especially good having these 4 out of 5 required objectives. I mean, 1 you can always fade. Just gives the ability always for one runner who might look behind to catch back up. So these races they're never over till they're over. And it is just an antline on top of the tower, so this is not the Pale Dim hiding spot, but still a chance of getting a key item. So, well, still might prove to be useful to Wewbear.
Yeah, if this pays off, it'll pay off. Ooh, there's the giant play.
DShmoo, it might be. I'm feeling behind. Let's take that gamble. You get to check the one boss, and so that might show you that Pale Dim's there. But you have to get through that first boss to be able to check the second boss location and get through both to get the character check. So I wonder what DShmoo's planning here to go through all bosses, whatever he finds, or maybe depending on how hard that first boss is.
A Sand Ruby for Keyless Tower, and this giant if you look through the logic of the seed, we have not seen D-Mist yet either. This giant could still be required.
Oh, yeah. That'd be an interesting turnout as well. Although, there are a lot of bosses and key items on the moon, and neither runner's been willing to look into those, so... yeah, definitely no one's really all that interested in going to the moon. DShmoo was feeling very behind, but as all these extra checks Wewbear's done have only paid off one objective, the Fusoya, DShmoo isn't as far behind as it might look.
And PK pointing out in chat, this could still be a Fusoya because we have not seen all the duplicates yet either.
That's true. So yeah, Giant still has the possibility to give DShmoo go mode. Wewbear, though, is going to finally go and visit the moon here and take on some of the bosses who are waiting up here.
A Sarah Ed element seems like a little bit of a push. I know we've seen mute arrows in some places, and I know we've seen other anti-mage gear. If he just sets up his party up for this, drops a wall so that she's constantly healing the party instead, I think he's got this.
Yeah, exactly. Looks like he just wants to do some changes to his party setup to be able to take on this fight. Maybe just getting that Sid as an anchor is the only thing he's really interested in. As well as you get a lot of the rune rings, which I think give you mage defense to help you not get knocked down by a Siren quite as easily. So there's a lot of anti-mage gear in the game anyway to help you get through this fight.
Yeah, and where he has the 2 white mages right now, and she only is gonna attack if you attack her as a counter. He can just drop those blinks on everyone, and it'll be pretty free.
And Wewbear going top down through the Lunar subterrane here. And we'll not to pale dim. It's a really easy fight. The King and Queen of Evelyn, who will just cast some Fire 1s and some Fire 2s, and then the fight just ends. Definitely interested in taking this fight.
Yep, Wewbear getting his nice little break here, waiting for that script to run out. And this Asura fight looking like it's going to go pretty fine. Just dropping his the double Star Veil onto Rydia to get that reflect onto Asura and starting to get the blinks up. Got that Cecil, I think, berserked already. I think we'll be fine.
Yep, hitting for a few thousand points of damage. You do have over 60,000 HP to get through here, so it's a lot, but looking safe. So it might be a bit of a time sink to get through, but should be able to get through at this point.
And while we're waiting real quick for the script to run out, see what the answer is for King and Queen Evelyn, I want to give a quick shout out to the rest of our restream team, including Zach on tracking. It's his first time on it and doing a very wonderful job. So please make sure you're sending all your love over there. And thank you as well to Skull Kitty on the restream, as well as our 2 runners today.
Yeah, definitely big thanks to everyone involved in this for giving us a great source of entertainment. And Wewbear getting rewarded with a spoon here, so almost certainly not what he's hoping to see, but also a chunk of experience for beating that boss, so no reset, just take that and continue walking down.
Yeah, and this is one of those seeds where that spoon is really just a small amount of money and not really anything else at this point.
Yeah, especially for Wewbear, who is already at 10 key items, so it's not even the key item to push you towards that 10 breakthrough and start getting rewarded with double experience.
The question to me is Wewbear going to stop and do any remaining level grinding he wants on his way down, or is he going to try and find that key item first?
Yeah, or hope that the bosses themselves will provide enough experience. I can see going ahead and checking who's in the ribbon room. If it's not too hard to fight, just finish it for a really big influx of experience. And if it is a rude one, maybe you do your grinding first.
Well, any one boss could be go mode for him too, so.
Yeah, definitely having that knowledge of are you already in go mode or not is critical. It really helps you plan out the rest of the route well. Go ahead, and so heading all the way down, taking the save, so not going to be doing any grinding before saving at least. And yep, checking the ribbon, which gives you 2 key item checks behind this boss.
Well, it's looking like it's going to be Dr. Luggage's comedy hour and still going to be stuck through the script here, so this is going to be a little bit of a slow fight, but a pretty not threatening fight for him.
Should not be too hard to get through the fight, just will eat up some time, especially due to those text boxes, which they're a little slow.
So far between this and King and Queen Evelyn, we've had a very dramatic moon with a lot of storyline going on, but not a lot of reward.
Yeah. The Asura fight still going fine on DShmoo side. Looks like dealing out the damage. His party seems in totally fine shape, getting those blink casts off, keep picking people back up as they get knocked down. So it's going a little slow, but seems to stay pretty safe.
And that's the thing with Asura too, like if you're having problems, you can always slow down a tiny bit, get yourself caught back up. It's really just a matter of getting that juggling act going.
And on to the second phase of the Dr. Luge fight. No, the HP being split across those 2 phases. Oh, Asura does fall. Excellent. good for DShmoo getting through that fight. I imagine due to the time sink there, we'll be seeing a save before checking that second boss.
Yep, and I imagine after checking that second boss, there is a little bit of a question of if this is something difficult, what do you do? Do you try and power through it? Do you reset and just say, well, that's just time lost?
Yeah. So we didn't quite talk about this. I guess we're on the vanilla giant flag in this flag set, which means once you're in the giant, there's only reverting to a save before you entered the giant or working your entire way through there. You can't just walk out.
So really, whether or not this play pays off is going to depend on what is at the CPU spot.
This are paled in. It's the Dark Imps, which that's a fine fight. It'll be easy to take on with the access to the Hourglass. But unfortunately, doesn't look like much progression for DShmoo unless it's also Fusoya, which is still possible.
Well, as being pointed out in chat, it is a lot of XP, especially if you life glitch these Dark Imps. So it might not be the worst thing in the world because it'll probably cut down on his grind time later, but unless this is a Fusoya, this has been a bit of a waste.
Yeah, definitely any life glitching here will mean no need to do any additional grinding. You'll be set on XP. Though you really would wish to have had those 10 key items. And Wewbear, unfortunately, not finding the key item he was looking for in that spot, so just moving on to the next set of bosses here. I think this will be interesting. Is this base check and reset, or just fight through the bosses? Finds elements here. We'll just go ahead and take the fight.
Yeah, to answer the question in chat, yes, this is a 1-1 race at this point.
Alright, and how much value is there in this giant? Unfortunate, that's definitely not what DShmoo was hoping to see here. Just a Yang. Really, Fu was probably the only thing that would have made this still worth it for DShmoo. So.
Fu, maybe even a second Cecil would have made that sting a bit less.
Yeah, this Yang might not even get to join the party. But I totally understand the play for DShmoo, though. Feeling behind makes sense. You go for that really high variance play and hope that's what gets you back in the race. It's going to be a risk, and sometimes it will not pay off, as we saw here. But if there was that value here, I could just slingshot him into the lead.
Yeah, and it's also deeply unfortunate, although we do find an Avenger on Wewbear's side real quick. I want to talk about that, because that's a pretty good pickup.
Yeah, definitely that Avenger Sword, once you have it equipped, you are automatically berserked and infinite berserked, even through things like Black Hole. So for going on taking on, say, that Xeromus fight, you equip your Excalibur, you swap over to the Avenger, and then, of course, as you would expect, you keep the Excalibur's attack stats, but become berserked. And then you're just set up for the Xeromus fight, not having to worry about keeping berserked through the Black Hole phases.
Yeah, definitely something you want to see if you have that Cecil or even a really strong Kane. We're going to see what this last altar down at the bottom of the moon here is before he has to start climbing his way back up.
And we found our Pale Dim. Alright, so this will put Wewbear immediately into go mode. And be rewarded the crystal, so I'll now have 4 of 5 objectives. And he can take on Xeromus, which will be interesting. How is he feeling? Is he feeling safe enough to go back and take that save, or we'll just have to swipe off him?
I think at this point you probably take the save just in case, because if you lose this fight, you got to be feeling like you're a little bit on the pressure, because obviously Wewbear does not know the issues that DShmoo had with the reset in Dwarf Castle. So you got to be feeling a little bit of pressure, and you got to be thinking, okay, I should go back and save because I don't want to lose this to just walking down the moon.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And your current levels, well, good. You can definitely take on Xeromus like this. It's not like you're not at the free level. Like, this fight will just be fine. There's really nothing that set me back. Rosa with 2000 HP, high rolls on those big bangs will still take her out. DShmoo6 pretty much always at risk of being taken out by some high rolls. So we'll probably see the save after. DShmoo checking cave value. Again, this is it's probably the less obvious spot of the two to go. So let's go see if this is where Pale Dim's hiding out. Oh, not Pale Dim, but the other interesting boss. There's our D-Mist.
That is 2 chances at a hook, and if he ends up getting the hook from it, then Fusoya is on the hook route. It's pretty good pickup there.
Yep. Yeah, that definitely makes sense for DShmoo to want to take this fight, seeing it is D-Mist. Well, Wewbear reward with the package. Probably not going to follow up on that key item at this point. Does want to go back for the save, so definitely makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, I agree, and then it's really just a short walk down. I will be interested to see if he goes back up and tries to get a couple levels to see if that Forum will survive, or Palom will survive a little bit, maybe get him to nuke, but I kind of expect he'll just walk down and go for it.
Yep, having the Excalibur and that Avenger, that's, a pretty good source of damage. That's enough to get you through that fight, and you just focus on your healing with your Rosa and your Fusoya. As long as one of the two of them survives each of those full-strength Big Bangs, you're able to just revive, or maybe even get food to start reflecting some nukes out, get some hybrid strats, get that DPS a little higher.
Yeah.
And Peasants is noting Rosa has the Artemis bow on, so maybe you go ahead and even berserk her up for some extra damage. Though one Artemis arrow is probably not enough to get through the fight.
Well, as Wewbear is walking down to the bottom of the moon, we're starting to see the traditional Z flags in chat, which does lead to the one big question left on the table here.
Yeah, definitely. So this is a randomizer. We randomize many things in this seed, but one of the things we chose not to randomize is Xeromus. He's just way too mean to find anywhere than at the very end of the game. So since this is randomized, we want to randomize something about him. So he gets a new sprite every time that you come into this fight from a great pool of over 500 sprites. But that leads us to one important question to ask, and if you'd like to go ahead and take it.
That question is, of course, whose butt are we going to kick this afternoon?
So as we throw out the crystal here, the Xeromus sprite will be revealed to all of us, and we'll find out whose butt is getting kicked. And we'll wait for that crystal come out. DShmoo getting through the D-Mist fight fine. Again, only really auto attacks to worry about here, so with those sources of blinks, good way to stay safe and make it through. Huh. I don't recognize that butt.
That is Nightmare from Kirby's Adventure, I want to say, for the NES, which was later released as Nightmare in Dreamland, if I'm remembering correctly, on the Game Boy Advance.
Excellent. So we have Wewbear here throwing out Slowcast from Fusoya, so I guess no access to the Silk Web, but this will still get the first nerf of the Big Bang, as well as some slowdown, not as much as throwing out a Silk Web, but will definitely help get the speed under control.
Yeah, and a fight like this, which could be a little bit risky at first, if you get some bad rolls on these Big Bangs, then definitely need to get that slow out, because one wrong move could set you back a lot here if you get that wrong high roll.
And New King Cecil. I think someone had a Star Veil on and it wasn't Cecil. So whoops. That Might slow down the fight a little. Rose is still, though, doing good berserk damage here, and we'll be able to keep shooting that one arrow until the berserk status wears off, which can happen. Cecil's bugged and he's trying to fix it. Okay, that's why he's knocking him down. So, we were talking about putting on the Avenger Sword. We'll go ahead and let you gain Berserk. We're still using your Excal stats. I don't know all the conditions, but sometimes it bugs out and you will just not swing your sword at all for your Berserk. And, well, you don't want that when that's half of your damage. So go ahead and knock Cecil down, bring it back up, and it has a chance of turning the bug off.
It does seem to have done that, so outside that little hiccup on the road here, we have managed to get going. And meanwhile, DShmoo is through this demist fight, so we're about to see what the reward is for that, at least from the Bahamut location.
Oh, great weapon for Edge, who unfortunately don't have, but there is a second check here, which I imagine DShmoo will follow up on immediately, so exit on out and head back down to the blue planet. We're eating here his first full strength Big Bang, which, while knocking down his Palom, his other three kickers all stay alive here, so not too bad. Should be able to just throw out the Cure 4 here on Fu and continue going. Although Black Hole will be the next cast here for Night Miss, which will turn off the Berserk release on the Rosa.
Yeah, that was a pretty good roll to have gotten to. Like 1200's nothing here. I think he's pretty good shape. Just really needs to just wait this one out and wait for the damage to come out.
And let's find out if D-Miss is holding anything useful for us today. Really looking for that hook to get DShmoo right onto the right path here. Tower key, that's a chain. Maybe that will lead to the hook.
Yep, and I believe it was Wewbear who did Keyless Tower, not DShmoo, so he's got to feel like, okay, that's 2 checks. I kind of have to go for this right now.
Yeah, that makes sense once you kind of do that out of the way check, D-Miss, and then find out that gives you the tower key. You gotta just keep following that chain to just hope that it pays off.
Yeah, and at this point, that hook's got to be either here or behind Earth Crystal or at that Crystal Sword altar. So unfortunately, we've kind of seen everywhere but the hook here.
We're definitely having no problems eating those full strength Big Bangs, just Cure 4ing with Fu after. So looking like this fight's going pretty well for him.
Yep, it's going to get the Black Hole here, so going to need to re-berserk the Rosa, but that shouldn't pose an issue.
The Avenger, though, keeping that Berserk status on Cecil, so it's great. He'll just keep on swinging there. Yeah. Did run out of those Artemis arrows, so is onto his Mute arrows now, which is not doing quite as much damage, but still a good source here. The Artemis bow does make Rosa into quite a powerful archer, even with any arrow she has equipped.
I'm a little bit concerned, but I think you should have this cure off before anything bad happens to that. So yeah, he's fine.
Alright, good. Alright, looks like Wewbear has just hit his flash here, and so we'll be finding out his official time. which is 1:28:28. Excellent, which you might have noticed a low jump there. That was just a hiccup from our earlier technical difficulties, resetting our timers. But the official race time is a 1:28:28. Really good time there for especially all those extra checks. Wewbear ended up doing on Earth, which didn't quite lead to much, but still getting it in under the 1.5 hours. So GG's Wewbear. That was an excellent run.
Yep, and we'll see if we can get him in for an interview here very shortly. But meanwhile, DShmoo is through this antlion check. We'll grab that sand ruby. We'll be walking down the tower to see what's at that super cannon room soon, though.
Another boss spot and another key item check for DShmoo there. I imagine DShmoo hoping for the pale dim. We know, unfortunately, will not be hiding out inside the super cannon.
Yeah, right now his path forward to the end of the seed is find that hook, which could be here or only really a couple other places. So odds are pretty good on the hook. It's about a 1 in 3 chance at this point, although he doesn't know that. Find duplicate Fusoya if we're lucky in Evelyn Cave after the hook, or that. We are joined by our winner today, Wewbear. GG's.
Thank you. Hello. Hi, GG's Wewbear. Well played. There was a lot of checks you ended up doing there, but you still managed to pull in at under an hour and a half, so really well played overall there.
Yeah, it seemed like it was going to be a little bit more jetty at first when I was 7 key items at like 20-something minutes, and then just it dried up significantly for a while.
It's exactly what we were talking about here on stream. Is this going to be the jettiest seed we're going to have? And it looked that way until everything just stopped and we tried to do a bit of a longer seed. But you played it real well, making your checks in good order. I did have, I guess, one question is kind of, what did you think there with that magma key start? Like, do you kind of have a plan when you see magma key right at the beginning, or do you kind of wing it depending on maybe characters or other things influence those decisions?
It doesn't usually change a whole lot on like my routing or anything, because there's not a lot you can do down there anyways, other than like looting a bit. But I mean, I try not to loot too much anyways. But as soon as I get those Artemis arrows, and I think like back of waterfall, I was like, okay, I will find some Siren, we'll do a quick couple of eggs, and go from there. So that was nice.
And definitely that worked out real well for you to just go ahead and be able to get those early levels, make every check a bunch faster there. You also did a decent amount of grinding there before, say, going to the Fey March to take on those bosses. What were your thoughts there on those grinds? Were you looking for any specific levels? Were you thinking about, should I be doing this without 10 key items?
I was just looking for Lightning 3, really, for Octobam, and just a bit more levels on Cecil, just so if he did have to take a hit, he'd be a little bit better. But I ended up getting Blink off anyway, so it was fine.
Definitely. And really good strategy there on keeping everyone else at 1 HP, so you'd have all the covers kind of going off there, and so the Blink really made that fight go well for you.
Yeah, I'm super comfortable with Cecil cover stuff, so I was pretty happy about that. As soon as I saw him, I think Dwarf was it or something, but I was like, all right, I know where I'm going next, so immediately went to Ordeals because I think I already had Forge at that point, so it's like, this works out.
So you also put off going to the moon for a really, really long time. What was the thought process there, especially maybe with the Luca Key and Keyless Towers, your only checks left, and you still want to go for those over moon?
That's just kind of how I always play. I don't know if it was a holdover from the last tournament, which I wasn't in, but I played a lot of the Ace things where moon was pretty much never a good idea to go to. I was one boss off or hook off, so it didn't seem too bad to check them, because like you can check the key item and then the boss real quick in Luca, not too bad. And then top of tower was just to be okay, it's definitely not down here, I don't have to worry about it, let's go to the moon and figure it out from there, because I think that was my last check down there.
It definitely can give you kind of that nice peace of mind of, all right, it wasn't in one of those fast places, so hopefully I'm not too far behind and we'll be able to just quickly get to the end.
Yeah, the big thing that I was contemplating, but I didn't do it, I was thinking of just save scumming the entire moon, just looking for Pale Dim. But you're missing hook as well, so it's like, what do I do?
Yeah, definitely. It seemed to pay out for you. You were able to just, through getting through those bosses, have enough levels, so once you did finally find that Pale Dim, You were able to go right onto Xeromus and had overall pretty clean fight. Anything specific you were thinking about
I don't know
how to
about
take that fight on? Well, you made it through. That's what matters.
I made it through, but yeah, that was a stressful fight. But no, I had reflect strats in my head for most of that, but then it gave me Artemis Bow and Avenger, and I'm like, all right, Seed, I get the hint. I will. But no, the Xeromus fight, man, my Cecil got bugged out immediately, so I was like, that's not good. So I had to nuke him, revive him, but then that kind of messed up my Fusoya mana because he didn't have a lot of mana. I didn't have any like curatives, but luckily I had the Lilith Rod, so that worked out. Yeah, it was a little stressful.
Yeah, definitely. I can say for running into that bug, you handled it really well to be able to recover from that. Quick nuke to kill him off, and then yeah, as you know, now you have some MP problems, but you found a way around that too. And once you kind of recovered from that rough start, the fight looked pretty well, and you were able to get through. So GG's.
Thank you. I was pretty happy that I remembered Lilith Rod was a thing. And that came with one, because I don't think I found one, so...
And anything else for Wewbear?
No, you got every question I had. GG's, very good race, very, very well run. I was impressed with your technical skill on those Feymarch bosses, timing those lit ones and all that perfectly, so very good run.
I didn't get the first lit one. He still waved me, but it was like, the damage wasn't... I already had a Berserk going at that point, so I was like, it's not a big deal. But I did miss it, so...
The thought on it impressed me enough that I forgot that you missed the wave because it didn't really do much damage anyways.
It looked real impressive. You looked like you knew exactly what was going on. So.
Yeah, it was just a hair too quick. Sorry.
That does put you at... No, great. Put you at 2-1 here. So how are you feeling about that record, and what are you guys going to be doing? Anything in mind for preparation for the future races?
Not really. I probably just keep doing what I'm doing. I usually do like maybe a seed a day. I've been a little bit busy the past couple weeks. So I haven't been playing as much as I would like, but yeah, I don't do anything too fancy.
The seed a day definitely practicing seems to be paying off. You were really able to handle pretty much all the things the seed was throwing at you and really make work through what looked like the start of a Jetty seed, but ended up being pretty much more of a normal length seed. So GG's.
Yeah, I saw at the end there. I don't know where Demist was, but it was Demist into Tower into Zot, which led to Hook. So that was kind of gross.
Yep.
Pretty happy I avoided that.
Yeah, definitely. That was over in Cave Value, so probably the last place on your mind to go look from what you were doing.
I thought about checking it too, but I was like, I just want to get down there, and if it's down there, then I don't have to worry about like coming back up or anything. And yeah, so I'm glad I avoided that rabbit hole.
Yeah, definitely good planning around not having access to that pass. Although I guess you knew where it was, but you reset.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I would have went down there and got it again. I very much dislike Luca Sealed Cave.
Yeah, only do it if you absolutely have to. All right. Oh, great. Thanks for putting on this excellent race today. It was a lot of fun to watch, and best of luck in all your future races for this.
Thank you. And I just want to shout out right quick my mentor and coach, Peasants OMFG, great guy. His race is tomorrow, I think. And yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for streamers and trackers. Pushing buttons is good. But yes, I will head out. Goodbye.
Thanks.
And meanwhile, DShmoo has gone through this Earth Crystal, which we know from the sort of spoiler log on Wewbear's side will lead to that hook, which will lead to that pink tail turn-in. The question that remains at this point is, I believe there's one more dupe still on the table, and it's either behind the package or behind the hook route. If it ends up being a duplicate Fusoya on the hook route, he's in good shape. If it doesn't, this might be a little bit of a ways to go still.
Yeah, exactly. So I imagine, though, the hook will be checked immediately because, hey, going to be picking up the hovercraft to turn the pink tail anyway, so might as well go and check that hook character, and that'll make things quick. If not, because it's the Pale Dim holding the package, we're not going to see the package check. You'll be finding that Pale Dim and making the progress that way. and that will turn on go mode for DShmoo with this pigtail tournament.
So is running to the end of the road. I think worst case scenario is probably he goes to the moon and does a top-down clear of it, but I don't think that anything will pose much of a problem. Gets another Excalibur number 3 out of the pigtail at least.
Oh, that made the hook will have another Cecil, in which case, well, you can put all those Excals to use. Also just getting a crystal ring, or a really good piece of gear, so never too upset to see one of those. And not picking up the hovercraft. Okay, just making sure the Enterprise is still working there. Slow test flight.
You know, I feel like you have that sort of reset, you end up a little bit nervous, but I do want to say that DShmoo has played very, very well this run, getting past that too, because I know if I had done that sort of accidental reset at Dwarf Castle, I would have thought, I can't anymore. And, you know, plugging through it has been really, really good to see.
Yeah, totally agree. DShmoo's been playing really well, and you're right. Taking an accidental reset like that can make you, really set those race nerves in really high, and being able to still keep that clear mind and think through, well, how do I recover from this? I really like the showing good plays on getting through a lot of these boss fights. I like that call of, I'm behind, let me do this risky giant and see if that pays off, and flings me back into the lead.
I have to remain impartial on commentary, but there was definitely a part of me that was like, oh, please let this giant pay off, because that would be the coolest thing if you'd gone for that and it worked.
Definitely. It's always fun to see those big gambles pay off. It's just fun and exciting.
So gonna walk through this hook route now, and the question on my mind on DShmoo's side is, do you walk up this hook route to see what's at the King Queen Evelyn spot, not knowing where that pale dim is?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. My guess is probably not. If DShmoo was using metagame knowledge here of seeing Wewbear's time, it probably means pale dim isn't in anywhere incredibly mean, as Wewbear was able to finish with a good time there. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just exit out and probably go. It's somewhere on the moon. I haven't checked yet.
Yeah, and that is the last dupe, meaning that the second Fusoya possibility behind package is not going to happen.
So, I think the real thing for DShmoo is how to handle the lunar subterranean here. Top down or bottom up check. Bottom up will be faster, especially if he just face checks every boss and resets to be able to find that pale dim quickly. Which I guess, what key items might he be looking for? So the reset strategy might be looking pretty appealing at this point.
I have to think at this point in time, obviously he doesn't know that the Baron key and Luca key are elsewhere, but he has to be looking for that Baron key, because that's the 3 boss spots and the character spot. And at this point in time that Fusoya, in his case, either has to be behind the package or behind that Baron key.
Yeah, definitely good call out. Taking the save outside, and we'll be checking. Yep, we'll see here, is it top down or the bottom up approach? Zoom Waffle asking in chat, where was the Baron key? Baron key was behind the Octomom in Feymarch. It was one of the Feymarch bosses, I believe. Octomom.
Yeah, it was the Octomom at Leviathan spot.
And as noted, Baron Key did give access to that Fusoya, so it turned out to be an important check, although not necessary, as Pale Dim is here on the moon at the Ogopogo spot, which DShmoo does look to be doing a bottom-up approach, so it was getting him that much closer to where he needs to go.
Yeah, and we also know, if you think that the only 2 things that you would even possibly reset for, or the only 3 things are package, Baron Key, Luca key being the least likely of those, we know that he won't find any of those before he finds that pale dim. So it really is just a matter of how quickly he goes down, finds that spot, and takes that boss down at this point.
And having gone through the giant, that was a pretty big influx of XP, so DShmoo might already be at enough levels to feel good on taking on Xeromus, as well as these fights might not pose any problem to him. So
Yeah, it's just going to be a matter of what rooms does he go through, because I kind of imagine you'll still go for the usual ribbon room and white spear altar first.
Yep. I mean, they're closer to the save point. You really like being able to take on that ribbon room because it's another big influx of XP. But won't take that fight. It's too time consuming for him. So let's reset out and see who these other bosses are.
Well, he could be at this point just taking a strategy of, okay, I'm pretty sure Pale Dim is on the moon. I'm really only going to face check and just reset out of these, in which case it'll be definitely a play that pays off.
Yeah, definitely. It'll get him. Yeah, we know this is going to work out great because almost certainly the next spot is that Ogopogo altar, and that is where Pale Dim is hiding tonight. I don't think the Pale Dim will pose too much of a problem for him. It can be usually a somewhat slow fight, especially if you like to use the fight command, which gets countered with slow. But unless he's really outspeeding you and punching hard, you're probably going to be able to survive the fight.
And I think he's in good shape too. He still has that Rydia up at a pretty decent level, still has that Palm like that. I think he's going to be okay getting these blinks up pretty quickly and getting this fight done.
So it looks like just berserk up his Excel wielding Cecil there and throw up blinks then to start being able to avoid these hits. His anchor situations may be a little tougher. Sid, somewhat low agility, and that Dwarf axe will slow him down a little more, but definitely not the same as a level 1 Rydia or the agility situation.
Yeah, he did end up replacing his original Sid with the Sid that he found at the top of Tower of Zot, so that'll help quite a bit too. Probably it's going to leave him down at this point.
Yep. Oh yes, only 900 HP on that one. A much lower level Sid.
My big concern on DShmoo619's side right now is I don't think he definitely does not have nuke yet on this Rydia, and both the Rydia and the Porum's HP is looking kind of scary at this point. So he might just have to do a Cecil solos Xeromus while Rosa helps sort of strategy.
Yeah, he didn't go through the White Spear altar, so he doesn't have access to that Excal, or sorry, to that Avenger to go with this Excal. So he'll have to either, I don't believe Bacchus Wines were found either, so Rosa will have to keep throwing out those Berserks for him.
Nope, no Bacchus Wines anywhere. There was Coffins and I want to say Ethers on, or possibly Elixirs in that Blend Cave.
Yeah. Every key item has about 90% chance of showing up, so you're going to find a lot of the stuff you're looking for, but when there's multiple things, you know, the Sirens, the Hourglasses, the Bacchus, 90% all those, one of them not showing up is still definitely something that can happen.
Yep, but is through this fight, does get white on Rosa, which will help a little bit if he wants to try and bounce this off, although I'm not sure he will at this point, because it's going to be a little bit risky if your Cecil's the only one living through Big Bangs aside from Rosa.
Yep. So is the plan going to be just more or less that Rosa Cecil getting you through this fight, or do you grind a bit more so you can do reflect strats? Because if with 3 casters all throwing out high level spells, if their magic stats are high enough, you might not even have to eat a full strength Big Bang.
Well, we'll find out as he is walking back up a bit at this point.
Yeah.
Knows that
I did take that save. Yeah.
Yeah, it does note the pressure is kind of off at this point. I know it feels kind of wrong in some ways to mention that, but at this point you might as well take it safe and just finish it out.
Oh, and so with that Dwarf Axe and the much lower level Sid he has here, the agility is down to 5, so almost equal to a level 1 Rydia, who I believe has 4 agility. So his agility situation is actually pretty good here. That anchor is going to work well for him. Just fixing up the inventory here. Does have access to Silk Webs that will help on the Xeromus fight. You get 2 casts of slow for the 1 throw, as well as it makes it easy to nerf that first Big Bang.
This looks an awful lot to me like he's just going to walk down and face the Xeromus fight, which, well, maybe not.
Oh, yeah, I would have said the same, but nope. Let's take a few more grinds here. Definitely, it'll make the fight a little safer. So I think the question is just some extra HP. Is that what he's looking for, or is he actually looking to get these high-level spells onto his Forum and Rydia?
And I gotta think that he'll only need to do a couple of Sirens to get to that point anyways.
Yeah, definitely, especially with these over 10 key items here, there's a lot of XP for finishing up gold dragon fights. Alright, just kind of while that grind is going on, just want to call it, we do have some more free enterprise races going on, some Lali-Ho League races today at 7 p.m. Eastern on RPG Limit Break. We have Ike here versus Sameta and Clock Eastern, sir. Back here on the Free Enterprise channel, we have Mitzi versus Zoe Vermillion, and 9 p.m. Eastern on Randomania, Slippery versus Jeebus. So you have your selection of many, I'm sure will be exciting Free Enterprise races today on our 3 different channels there.
I know I'm definitely looking forward to the races the rest of the day too. You know, this was a very interesting seed as well, and I'm hoping to see more very, very good ones like this later.
Yeah, definitely the Free Enterprise community has a lot of very, very knowledgeable, experienced runners who can put on really good shows here and show us some interesting races. So definitely tune into those. They're all going to be good, I'm sure. As well as if you yourself are not currently playing Free Enterprise and want to get involved, the Free Enterprise community is not only very knowledgeable, but very friendly and happy to share that knowledge with you. So please do join us on playing this. It is a lot of fun to go through. A lot of different community races go on, and a lot of different flag sets to have different ways of getting through the Final Fantasy IV randomized.
And these...
Looks like these...
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
Alright, I'll go ahead.
Okay, no, yeah, you go ahead. Sorry.
Of course, that always... No, please, after you, Deadlock. It looks like DShmoo there was trying to hit the Ice 2 double life potion glitch. So the life potion glitch is when you hit an enemy with a life potion, they are brought back to life with HP based on their vitality stat, which for all monsters is 0. So they're revived having exactly 0 HP, meaning they die again. Ice 2 has a casting time that makes it turn out to be just right, that if you more or less queue in about as fast as you can, the life throws, you'll be able to get 2 of them off, and in fact that gets you 2 extra kills as opposed to just 1 for doing the single life potion glitch.
And there is the nuke on Rydia, so I have to expect that he'll just run down to the Xeromus fight now.
Yeah, definitely good showcase there on being able to do that grind quickly by getting the extra experience through the double life potion, and then get these strong spells onto all of his casters. So this is probably going to be then reflect strategies, as he has access to 3 high-level mages. And especially with good gear there, like a Silence Rod, a Life Staff, a Stardust Rod, a Tiara, these spells are going to hurt too. We'll probably be seeing 8,000, 9,000 points of damage coming up from each cast here. White, longer cast time than Duke, so it might not be as easy or straightforward as it would be with, say, 3 nuke casters, but it's still looking in good shape.
Yep, it'll be a nice, quick fight to round out the seed, so we should still come in under the 2-hour mark, which, given everything that happened earlier, is very, very respectable.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, DShmoo ended up really checking out a lot of the seed, as you can just kind of see from the key item tracker there. He's filled out many of the different locations, and even when he did that out of the way, a pretty time-consuming giant, and still looking at getting a nice sub-2 hour here.
Yeah, and I really liked the thought process behind all that. You know, we mentioned the giant play, but there were a lot of other, you know, not quite as high percentage plays that he did that didn't end up paying off this time, but it was still neat to see that thought of, okay, I've definitely lost time here. I am going to go do everything that I don't necessarily think will have been done already and see if I can't get ahead that way.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll get a second reveal here of our butt to be kicked tonight, or this afternoon, and see if DShmoo is going for those reflect strats, or if he was really just looking for that extra HP. Both of these will likely be able to get through the Xeromus fight. Oh, I see a Star Veil coming up, so I'm guessing the Reflect strats. Do you want to kind of walk through what the Reflect strategies are?
Well, they're pretty simple. You throw a Star Veil onto someone and you bounce all those spells off of it. There's many benefits to this, first of all being, first and foremost, if you try and cast any spell on Xeromus, be it white, nuke, slow, if you cast a lit one on him by mistake for some reason, you would get countered with a nuke of his own, which hurts quite a bit. But by doing this Reflect, you bypass that counter entirely. It just does the damage and everything ends up being fine. Secondly, Xeromus is supposed to have, I want to say, around 120,000 health or so normally, but he doesn't actually have that. What he has is he has about 65,000, and then midway through, he sneakily counters one of your attacks with an HP refill. And by doing this Reflect strats, you never trigger that counter attack, so you never trigger him to refill his health, and you can just basically cut his HP entirely in half by just reflecting spells onto him.
Yep, exactly. Only having to do about the 65,000 HP as opposed to the closer to 100,000, because he'll replenish once you've dealt the 45,000 points of damage to him. So it can really make this fight go faster, knocking him into that second phase effectively. And especially if you're hitting for really high points of damage here, that's 7,000, 8,000 points of damage, you can really get through the fight quickly, potentially only having to see one Big Bang cast, and that first Big Bang is relatively easy to nerf, as you really only have to trigger one counter nuke at any point before he casts it, and his spell power will be lowered.
Yeah, and the only real downside to that strategy ends up being that, as we're seeing, he has his Cecil throwing Cure 3 potions. You cannot attack with any of your characters with the fight command. You can't berserk your Cecil. If you do that, you will trigger the HP refill and still have to do the rest of his health.
The counter happens at 45,000 points of damage, so maybe you can sneak in like a spoon with your edge early, while you're still swinging some of those early spells. But yeah, once you're deep into the strategy, you're not able to do it anymore. So unfortunately, did have to eat a full strength Big Bang, and Porum and Radiant just don't get enough HP to survive that, so they both get knocked down here. So doing the life potions to get back up. Star Veil, is that done post Big Bang, or sorry, post Black Hole, and is back to reflecting those strats. Likely has been counting his damage, so is feeling comfortable here on being able to get these casts out for the second Big Bang.
Yep, I mean, probably going to throw a safety elixir out here, but definitely very confident here, just throwing out that white with Rosa instead of doing a quick cure.
So some Star Veils up, not everyone could get cured anyway. And still a little short on damage, it appears. I think he is doing this at battle speed 1, which can make Reflect strats a little harder. Xeromus moves quite quickly at battle speed 1, so you can definitely make the fight if you're going for Reflect strats, which is much more menu heavy than Berserk strats. A lot safer by just lowering down that battle speed. That Big Bang into Virus is actually scary territory there, almost taking him out. But getting those life casts off, starting to recover here, is out of elixirs though, which is a really good source of being able to quickly recover those high damage casts. So looks like just throwing out those lights, and hopefully we'll get over to one of his white mages for a cure forecast.
Yep, I think he might be going for it.
Going for that damage again, must be feeling good about how close he is to 65,000 points of damage.
Definitely giving us a show at the end here with that confidence.
Real big roll from Rydia, quad 9s, that's as much damage as you get out from a single attack. And this Rosa, another 9,900 hit to end the siege. He is done. And with an official race time of, let's see, a minute here.
Oh, waiting on that time. Very GG.
Great. And official race time of 1:58:05. And I believe find out if DShmoo will be joining us for an interview or not. Was able to hit that sub 2 hours, but yeah, definitely an exciting Xeromus fight there with the reflex strats, eating those full strength big bangs, but showing good ability there to recover, throwing those life potions, good use of the elixirs he has access to. You get one in your starter kit. I must have picked up another one somewhere in the seed there. But yeah, definitely showed good play there on being able to make it through them. Oh, and the HP ran out after the fight's over. Always fun to see.
Well, Cecil almost made it, and we are joined by DShmoo, GG's very good run, very impressive Xeromus fight that I was very nervous throughout. GG's.
Do we have you here, DShmoo? Not able to hear you. All right, maybe some technical difficulties here on DShmoo's side, or just maybe searching frantically for that headset.
Can you folks hear me?
Hey, yes, great. Able to hear you now. So, GG's.
Thank you so much. Glad I pushed that one out. It was rough.
Definitely. So, I have to ask, what happened in Dwarf Castle? What was that reset?
So this is the fun story. So before the match, my opponent and I were chatting, and I was mentioning, check it out. My morning coffee I forgot to finish. Thank you, past DShmoo. You left it here for me as a pick-me-up before the race. And then I said, well, actually, maybe it's a trap. Because, what happens when you drink coffee and then you sit down for 3 hours, sometime you have to get up. So I ran out of the room at the end of Dwarf Castle, and I ran back, and I stepped on my controller, and I hit the reset button.
No.
And so from that moment on, I was all thumbs. So I actually reset out of the fight twice more after that accidentally, just because my finger slipped onto the reset button because I was shaking. So I took a deep breath, remembered to set my battle speed back down, and powered through it. But at that point, I realized, darn, I lost like 20 minutes here, and this is the Darkness Crystal he just opened up. I'm going to bank on the fact that my opponent is taking the time to go full clear moon right now. And, my chance to win is if that's completely the wrong play. So my thought is, okay, well, what is he not going to do? He's not going to do Fey March. He's not going to do Giant. We have everything we need objective-wise, except for the hook, the character, and the boss. Chasing the hook is really attractive. Like, key items, are like endorphin rushes. You get a key item, you feel good. So everyone likes to chase key items, but I was thinking, well, I don't really need the hook. I could not turn into Pinktail if I find Fu and Pilden. So I said, this is the risk. This is what I have to do here. I'll take one quick poke at Fey March if I can get enough turn utility to survive Octomom or Octomammoth. Then I'll finish that fight. But otherwise, I am going to the Giant, and I'm banking on Fu, Pilden, or both. And I was also kind of thinking, well, that also is a simultaneous grind. Takes a bit of time off of my end game there. Turned out the bosses there were fairly free. I was wishing I had bought the Rune Axe in, I think it was Dwarf Castle, for that Asura fight. But I thought it was pretty manageable. And so seeing that Yang at the end, I was just, my heart sank. I'm like, well, okay, I lost this now.
I do understand. That was definitely a good heads-up play to go, all right, what are these, the low percent chance plays? Is that's your way to get back into the seed, because, definitely feeling behind and being able to make that, thought process, especially after, the race nerves, I'm sure, set in with the, I am behind at this point, was definitely a really good play. we're all cheering for you there. At that point, we had not seen where Pale Dim was, so we were being kind of hopeful it would be there in the Giant and kind of slingshot you back into the race. But yeah, it was unfortunate when it turned out to not find that Pale Dim, and there was still a chance of getting the duplicate Fusoya there, as there was a Fusoya at the Baron, behind the Baron Key. Yeah, unfortunately that just didn't pay out, and so you still had a lot of the seed ahead of you. Was the K value check kind of the similar idea? What you thought was a more low percent check?
So I've been liking that check a lot on these flag sets if there's a monster hunt or a boss hunt, because you can do a couple of different things there. One, if you're behind on loot, you can loot safely with higher quality gear on this flag set. Two, you can face check the boss without fighting it, unlike any other moon spot. And three, if you have your Sirens already, you can take Gold Dragon fights there pretty fast if you're not committing to full moon. So you can you can get a lot of play out of going there first on this flag set. So I've been doing that a lot lately. I don't think that was a sort of from behind thought as much as it was like a thought of, hey, maybe I'll take some Gold Dragons. I have a couple of Hourglasses, whether or not I can take on this boss. But when I saw Derek missed, I said, okay, well, 2 key item checks, and like I'm committing. I figured, well, this is another thing that not everyone does, to check here first, and that might be another like 5-minute thing I could catch up on. But that obviously turned into a chain.
Quite a long one at that.
Yeah. But like once you commit, you're like, well, I'm in it now.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, you can't turn around at that point. Once you just keep seeing that chain going, you're like, well, might be at the end of this. I can't stop. I have to see, as well as especially that Earth Crystal when you still have that blue on the table. Must have looked really appealing to keep following.
Yeah, I was like, well, key item check, 2 character check. Like, I can't really say no. So I was definitely baited into that. I did the treasury purely for the people watching. I didn't need it. It was an awesome treasury if I'd gotten it at the beginning of the game, but it was not terribly useful. Like it actually, if you don't count the treasury, which I don't think I would have looted otherwise, I only opened about 50 something chests, which is amazing for me because my average is like 133.
Definitely showed some good restraint then on looting the appropriate amount here, because yeah, I know what you mean. T-Wildish, it's really attractive to just open as many of those as you can and find as much of that amazing loot as is scattered around the world.
Yeah. So in the end, I mean, I don't think it turned out that badly. I think, I'm really happy with my early game routing and my early game execution. Everything up until Dwarf Castle felt really great to me. And then everything after that felt like a chase level in an action platformer video game with a wall of fire behind me.
Yeah, definitely everything was looking really good up to that point. The race was going very close at that point. You and Wewbear were just kind of trading off, doing different checks, kind of different order, but really doing all the same stuff right around the same times. And it was really just that unfortunate reset at Dwarf Castle that kind of set you back and really put the seed, unfortunately, in Wewbear's favor there.
Yeah. Well, I think it's only fair. I think not everyone knows, but about a year ago, I did my first tournament. I did the Fabu Gauntlet. And my very first match was against Wewbear. And it was an extremely close match, only for the reason that he forgot Dwarf Castle existed. So, in a way, this is kind of fitting that, I've paid back the Dwarf Castle misstep. Like, so I'm going to pretend I was flexing, hey, check this out. I'm going to win, and I'm going to do Dwarf Castle 3 times,
Definitely, for the one time he missed it there on that first seed.
Exactly. So we're going to pretend it was intentional. I threw. That's what it was.
Excellent. Well, given everything that happened at seed, you played very well there. You are going into the rest of the league now at a 1-2 record, so you still have a chance here of coming out at 4-2, which can potentially get you into the brackets. What's your thought going into next week?
I am just having a lot of fun. My goal is never necessarily like to get to a certain point in the tournament. Like I always say, like, I'd like to win a couple of matches so I don't feel completely bad about myself. But yeah, I'm pretty inconsistent under pressure at this game. So I don't have terribly high hopes, but yeah, like I'm having a great time and I'm really looking forward to the rest of my matches.
Well, glad you're having a great time. I mean, the first point of this is having fun, so good that's happening there, and you definitely have been showing some really good play in this seed, so hey, I would not be surprised you pull off a few more wins before this is all over.
Well, thank you for your confidence. I'll try not to let it get to my head.
Okay. Anything else, Nth?
Nope, I just wanted to say, very good job on the seed, and, also just very good job continuing after that reset, because I know that myself and a few people in chat were thinking, okay, if this happened to us, we would have just quit and just run away. And getting through that was definitely very impressive.
Well, I hadn't completed my meme percent yet. I had talked to Dwarf, but I hadn't played music or gone to the treasury. So, I couldn't leave yet.
Well, definitely the community thanks you for hitting both of getting us that encore with the music, and always the fan favorite of raiding the treasury. So thank you.
Well, thank you all so much, Restream team and everyone who's watching. And thanks, Wewbear, for a great match and for all the admins in the community. Again, I'm having a great time, and you all make this possible. Thanks.
Well, thank you for doing the race today. It was a lot of fun to watch.
And right. I believe that is going to mostly wrap us up for today. What do you think, Klopfer?
I think we are done for today on this race, although as noted, there are 3 more coming up today. We'll be having 7 o'clock on RPG Limit Break, 8 p.m. Eastern back here on Free Enterprise, and 9 p.m. on Randomania. Those are all Eastern times, so definitely do tune in, watch some more Free Enterprise.
And speaking of watching some more Free Enterprise, we are going to send you all over to Sameta, who is part of that 7 p.m. Eastern race tonight, doing some practice ahead of time. I want to give a quick shout out of thank you to our Restream team today, to Zach behind the scenes on the tracking, who did an amazing job on his first time tracking with us today, as well as Scala Kitty for the Restream. And of course, a thank you to Klopfer, my co-commentator, and a thank you all to everyone who watched.
And of course, a big thank you to you as well, Nth. It was a lot of fun, and it was a good race today.